Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Believe it or not, practice starts this week, and another season is on the horizon. With us today for the first of several preview shows is beat writer Tony Garcia from the Detroit Free Press. Big Ten Media Days was last week. While it was interesting to watch, it is, as Tony Garcia says, pretty much like a made-for-TV event. No matter. It means that football season is not that far away. Beginning next week, players and coaches will be made available to the media to share their thoughts on practice and, of course, the coming season. We hope to share some of that with you in the coming weeks. For us, this signals the return to weekly programming in approach of another season of Michigan football. We'll have the usual 2 shows a week during the season. Our Visitors Edition on Tuesdays, then our Michigan Game Day segment will follow on Thursday. My guest today says no one is really sure yet how good we'll be. The only thing we know for certain is the defense is loaded, and the offense, well, it has to be better than it was last year. Joining us on our Game Day segment next is beat writer Tony Garcia from the Detroit Free Press. So stay with us. Joining us on the show today, as we do really the first of our Michigan preview programs, is Tony Garcia, who covers Michigan football and basketball for the Detroit Free Press. Great to have you back with us, Tony.
Always good to be here, Mike.
Well, Tony, Big Ten Media Days, they were last week, and that signals, I think, for most of us, another season is right around the corner. It's fun to watch the coaches and the players take the questions, but they are all so careful with what they say right now, aren't they?
Yeah, no, they are. It's really, I still suggest everybody read and subscribe to preveiw.com for all the coverage of it. Largely speaking, and all of us media brethren kind of say it is largely a made-for-TV event, just to get the cameras back in front of their faces and just start previewing the season. But as you said it, even before we asked Sharon Moore about the starting quarterback, right? He preemptively said there's going to be a battle. So they go in there, they all discuss exactly what they are going to say, what they're not going to say. You'll get a few headlines here and there, but they try not to make any waves before a new year.
Well, practice starts for Michigan later this week, and fans will, beginning then, want any news they can get about what's happening behind those walls at Fort Schembechler. As of right now, is there going to be much in the way of player and coach availability that you know of in August?
Yeah, there should be. We have not been given the schedule just yet, but my expectation is that we will possibly meet with players and coaches starting on Monday, August 4th. That's kind of the way it's been since I've been on the beat for 4 years now. They have that first week where they report, they begin practice, and then they sort of get it going. So I'm hoping next week.
Well, even with that, in reality, we're going to spend the month of August, as always, in speculation mode until we see this team play for real. So let's spend a few minutes speculating about this Michigan team, starting with the offense. And I guess that all begins with the man under center. Sharon says it's going to be a competition. Of course, you'd expect to hear him say that. But if you had to guess right now from what we saw starting in the spring, would you be shocked if Bryce Underwood isn't under center in the opener?
I would. Now, I wouldn't have necessarily said that 8 months ago when they brought in Meeechigen. Yeah. I thought they would have wanted to sort of slow play the Underwood aspect of this. But once Mikey missed all of spring with an injury, and there were literally only 2 healthy quarterbacks in the room, in Bryce Underwood and Jaden Davis. Bryce was getting at least 50% of the QB1 reps, and I just feel that's probably put him ahead. And not to mention, his ceiling is the highest. He's getting a pretty penny to come here and to play. Everybody is clamoring for him. They've raved about him on the field, off the field. He's the first one in, last one out. And that's not just talk. I mean, I met with him earlier this summer, and they actually had to give him a curfew on being in the building because he was just in the building so late all the time. They're like, look, you need to go home. And so no, I mean, I would be surprised if it was anybody but Bryce.
Well, the good thing is for anyone who follows college football, it's great to have a backup like Meeechigan around, especially, second week of the season when Michigan heads down to Oklahoma, just in case he's needed. That's a nice insurance policy, isn't it?
Absolutely. And based on what we all watched in 2024, Michigan was not going to make that mistake twice, right? Where it was kind of the quarterback carousel, but one was really no better than the other. And sure, they were sort of different styles if you're talking Orgy, Tuttle, Warren, but none were really very dynamic, frankly. And so they didn't want to be caught with just a true freshman. I mean, as happy as they were to land Bryce, of course, everybody wanted him. You just never know about a true freshman, even one as talented as him. So Sharon loved to point out how nobody on the team has taken more snaps at the college level than Meeechigan, more than 2,000 snaps. And at the quarterback position, that's very important. Not to mention, he and Chip Lindsey worked together at Central Florida in 2022. So he's familiar with the style of offense Lindsey likes to run. And that's why it really felt like he would really factor into this competition. And I don't think he's done. But if it's close, it's going to be Underwood. Keene is going to have to outright just shine if he's going to play.
Well, in my lifetime, I've seen 3 true freshmen start for Michigan, right out of the gate. Ricky Leach back in 75, then you had Chad Henne in 2004, Tate Forcier in 2009. In all 3 cases, fans, I think, realized there were going to be bumps on the road with those guys as they developed. But, right now, all of these years later, for me, fan expectations, they seem different with Bryce. I don't know if it's because of the excessive media exposure we have now as opposed to years ago, but fans have to sort of buckle up and realize there's going to be some hiccups with this kid as talented as he is, aren't there?
I've done my best to try to thread that needle and say, yes, I mean, he's of course extremely talented. Could there at some day in his future be a Heisman type ceiling? I see that. I think a lot of people see that, but that does not mean it's going to be year one. The only true freshman quarterback to win like a national championship in the last 40 years was Trevor Lawrence in 2018. That's the one. And I think the other reason for the hype, I mean, the media, I mean, I think we're certainly responsible for some of it, but Chad Henne and Tate Forcier were not the number one overall prospect in the entire nation, right? This is the highest rated recruit to come to Michigan. Ryan Mallett, people were kind of clamoring for him, but Henne was just ahead of him, and it was just too hard to supplant him. But I mean, there was a little bit of hype around him as well. But yeah, I mean, I've never seen in my 4 years of covering this day in, day out, I've certainly never seen any hype like this.
No, I've never seen anything like that either. And we know, though, the quarterback is the straw that stirs the drink. But what makes it all work are those guys up in the trenches up front. And I think like most people, that we're going to see improved offensive line play this year. But still, there are plenty of question marks up there, aren't there?
There are. I mean, start with the left tackle position, which is, I mean, we all know the history of the left tackle position at Michigan. I mean, obviously that goes for everybody, but it seems like in particular at Michigan. And right now that's a 3-man competition between Evan Link, who was last year's right tackle and struggled for quite a bit of the season before he sort of found his form. And the other options are Blake Frazier, who does not have a ton of experience, and true freshman Andrew Babalola, who has absolutely no college experience and actually has only played football for 2 years. I mean, he started his junior year of high school. I mean, his natural skill and athleticism was just so off the charts that he was still a top 15 prospect in the nation. And so they're high on him. All 3 of them are going to compete. If I had to guess right now, I think just based on experience, it's going to be Evan Link. But I mean, there is a whole fall camp to sort that out. And I would be way more surprised if Bryce did not start versus like someone like Link.
Yeah, if we can get improvement, I think everyone agrees with is up front, the running game should flourish, and running backs Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes should form a solid 1-2 punch, shouldn't they, Tony?
Absolutely. I think it'll be one of the better running back rooms in the Big Ten, and that sentence could expand beyond that as the season goes on. It's funny. They're both like very similar size. They're each 5'11". Haynes is like 205. Marshall's like 210. Yet they run slightly differently. Haynes is very east-west shifty. I mean, you always have to be careful when you invoke the name of someone like Blake Corum or something. But just I'm talking about in that little wiggle room, that foot, plant the foot and sort of cut back the other way that Corum could do at or behind the line of scrimmage. There's a little bit of that in Haynes' game. And Jordan Marshall last year, I mean, while he didn't have any, overwhelmingly impressive runs in that game against Alabama, to run for 100 yards on 23 carries against an Alabama team that knows beyond a shadow of a doubt you cannot pass with a substandard offensive line, I think speaks extremely highly to sort of the ceiling and the capabilities that Marshall has. And now with what you would figure would be an improved offensive line, what you also figure would be a more balanced attack, at least the threat of a passing game, that's going to take those 8 and 9 man boxes sort of out of the equation. And then you could really start to see him hit some home runs.
Well, the focus in that backfield is going to be Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes. But the other guy that lines up there occasionally, I think most of us love, is Max Bredesen, who will probably be a captain too, I'm guessing. We'll find out soon. But he can play tight end. He can line up in the slot, or he's an old school fullback. Whatever he lines up at, he's nasty. I mean, guys like Max do the dirty work, and he is elite at doing that, isn't he, Tony?
He sure is. I mean, if you go back to Kalel Mullings' game-winning touchdown run on 4th and goal against USC, watch Max Bredesen on that play. Hat on hat. That is the definition of big boy football, and he opened up that hole in order to make it happen. Sharon Moore called him the heartbeat of this team. There's no doubt about it. He's a guy who, and I mean, I love that. I mean, he was a former quarterback in high school, so he understands the greater concept of offense and how it's supposed to operate, and yet he attacks the game like a linebacker, just on the offensive end. I mean, he is always looking to hit someone. And you can line them up all over the field. I think Michigan might try to pass the ball a little bit more when he's on the field this year, because sometimes it is just such a dead giveaway where it's like, all right, 44 is on the field. Like, which way are they running, right? And so you want to break tendency a little bit there. But no, Max is a great guy. I would be shocked if he was not a captain yet again. Yeah. And he's going to factor in whether it's in the stat sheet or not. He will be a very important piece.
Well, moving around on that offense, Colston Loveland is gone to the NFL, as we know. So now it's time for us to find out who's next in that tight end room. Marvin Klein, Hogan Hansen are two of the guys we expect, among a few others, to step up. But they are both big, athletic, talented kids, aren't they?
They are. Hogan Hansen, there's a little bit of a question mark around right now. I'm hearing that he's sort of dealing with a little bit of an injury. Michigan always likes to play those very close to the vest, so you just don't know what that's going to bring. But Marlon Klein, I mean, last year when Colston Loveland was on the team, they still called Marlon Klein the most athletic player in the room, which just really speaks to sort of his dynamic ability. I mean, I think everybody's taken Colston Loveland 10 times out of 10 over him, all due respect to Marlon. It is a weapon. And then you got some guys who've sort of been waiting in the wings, whether it's Deacon Tonelli, Zach Marshall, Brady Prescorn. I remember watching him in high school, Rochester Adams. And I mean, he has great hands. So I don't know. And then Jalen Hoffman was the star of the spring game. So there are options in that tight end room, and I mean, Michigan grows tight ends on trees. I mean, it just seems like every year they got one. So it's just who's it going to be?
Such depth, such talent there. I'm not worried at all about that position actually. Now the wide receiver room, that's an entirely different story. We've been lamenting over, I would say, the last 5 or 6 years, the lack of a big rangy receiver or a guy that can take it over the top. But what are your thoughts on what we are looking at as prospective receivers, Tony?
Well, if you're talking big and rangy, it's got to be Donovan McCulley. There were some hints on social media that he is going to be given the number 1 jersey. We all know what that means. Mm-hmm. So they are placing. I mean, he's an ex-receiver, and they are literally and figuratively placing the X on his back as their go-to guy. And then you're just sort of hoping for incremental progress with everybody else. Andrew Marsh, the true freshman wideout out of Katy, Texas, he is the highest rated wide receiver recruit since Donovan Peoples-Jones in 2017. So that's a good sign. Jamar Browder, who they were able to flip from NC State, he's another 6'4", 6'5" kind of guy. Shane Goodwin looked nice in the spring game. And then you're just hoping for a little bit more from Samaj Morgan, Fred Moore. They signed Anthony Simpson, or they were able to land him in the transfer portal, I should say, from the University of Massachusetts. And he is actually very shifty if you watch some of his tape from there. So there is no star. I mean, if there is, it's McCulley for sure. But there is no clear dominant top 3, top 5 wide receiver in the league type. But there's a little more depth. Everybody's got another year. And again, it can't be overstated that their offensive coordinator didn't do them a lot of favors in terms of their routes and scheming them open last year. And there was not really an option for someone who could get them and press the ball, push the ball downfield. Now both of those things are different. And so, frankly, there is only one way to go, and that's up in the receiver room.
Absolutely. I mean, some fans I know, well, I should say a lot of fans that I talk to right now would like to see new offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey just come out and throw the ball around a lot more. And, he's probably going to do that eventually, but he's probably, at least early, going to have to lean on that running game early in this season. You have a true freshman under center. I don't care how good he is. You do have to take some pressure off of him. But my guess is those first 2, 3, or 4 games, as much as Chip likes to wing it around, the ground game is going to be the focus, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, always in Ann Arbor, right? It's going to start on the ground. But I do expect, for all the different years that it's been written about and talked about ad nauseum, this is the year Michigan's going to throw. This is the year Michigan's going to throw. We want to be balanced 50-50. Chip Lindsey is that guy who actually has balance in terms of his offenses. I mean, we saw it at North Carolina in the recent years. I mean, last year their offense averaged 32 points, 423 yards per game. They led the ACC in rushing at almost 190 per game, while passing for over 230 per game. And the year before they averaged almost 500 yards a game, and while throwing for almost 300 a game. Now, of course, that was with Drake May, but I mean, the top 20 in the nation in rushing and passing that year. It just shows that he can be a very, very balanced play caller.
Well, let's move our speculation meter over to the defensive side for a few minutes, Tony. There's no doubt that this is the strength of the team. Up front, the edges are at least 2 deep on each side. The tackles, Rayshon Benny and Trey Williams leading the way, and they can rotate a lot of big bodies in and out of there, can't they?
Yeah, they can. Michigan leaning on its defense. Shocking. Have not seen that one before. Yeah. But no, it's going to be there's no Mason Graham, there's no Kenneth Grant, and while Will Johnson was hurt last year, there's no top 10 type talent at cornerback. But it will remind people of possibly of that 2023 defense, where they would have what they like to refer to as the rally group. I mean, you are on this field for 3, 4, 5 plays in a row, maybe. And as soon as you are gassed, you're tapping your helmet, you're cycling out, someone else is cycling in. Last year, Mason and KG had to just take so many snaps. I think they both took somewhere like 100 or 150 more snaps than they ever had in their career. And keep in mind, 2 years ago, they had 15 games, and last year there were 13 games, right? I mean, it was just night and day. They were just so exhausted for even as dominant as they were. But I mean, back to some like the specific personnel. Derek Moore, TJ Guy are seemingly the next 2 up in the edge room. You mentioned Benny, you mentioned Trey Williams. They also got Damon Payne in there from Alabama. I've heard a bit about Trey Pierce, about Ike Iwunnah, who are sort of taking those next steps on the interior line. Eno Etta, who was I think the highest rated recruit in 2023. 3, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
He's now sort of played that patient game, and he's going to cycle into the rotation in some way. I think they want to use him inside and outside, kind of like a Rayshon Benny. But the guy who I've been trying to talk about, and I mean, this is just a hunch, but based on the spring game as well, I think Dom Nichols is going to be the guy who goes from really off the radar to one of their best defensive players. He is just a nightmare to deal with. Big, quick, strong, bendy, all the edge traits that you really want. And so they feel like and then Cam Brandt as well. So they feel like they legitimately have 10 guys who they can cycle on the defensive line. And it's a really great place to be.
Oh, yeah. A lot to be excited about with the guys up front. And then behind them, the linebacking core is maybe as good and as deep as we've seen in a while, isn't it, Tony?
That's what they're saying, and I mean, that's what I see, certainly on paper. I mean, Ernest Hausman, the green dot linebacker who represented the team at Media Day, he could possibly be a captain type. I wouldn't be shocked. Jayshon Barham, who is just an absolute load. Now, I think he is so talented that at times he has always just used his freakish ability to sort of overwhelm opponents and kind of get whatever he wants. But Michigan's defense is so predicated on making sure you stay within the scheme that there were times last year, especially early on, where he would be out of place and wasn't quite living up to the billing and all the hype that we had heard throughout the spring and the summer when they brought him in from Maryland. But he certainly caught on to what Wink wanted to do last year. And now they're kind of marrying the two styles, and they're going to line him up on edge sometimes. I mean, he is going to be the starting linebacker, but don't be surprised when you see him down right on the line of scrimmage and creating odd man rushes from certain sides of the field. And then Jimmy Rolder it's not often that you, especially these days, that someone has played, I'd say, as sparingly or as inconsistently as a guy like Rolder behind waves of other starters. I mean, before it was Michael Barrett and Junior Colson, and then you kind of thought Rolder would be that next guy up, but he's just been a little banged up throughout his whole career. But they say they view him as a third starter. So it's just lots of options, which is kind of the name of the game on defense this year.
Well, many of the preseason analysts and the magazines that I've been reading, if they question or have a question about that defense, it's in the secondary, especially at the corners. Right now it looks, if you look at the depth chart that I've seen, it's Zeke Berry and Jair Hill top the chart as of right now as we get ready for camp. And I suppose we have to see them do it, but, from what I've seen of them in the last couple of years, they're pretty darn good players, aren't they, Tony?
They are. I would probably lean that those are the two starting cornerbacks against New Mexico on opening day, but I would not be surprised if, kind of like Will Johnson did his freshman year, if Shamari Earls works his way into one of those starting corner roles, and then they move one of those other two guys into the nickel position. I mean, they are trying all the safeties at nickel as well. I mean, that's TJ Metcalf, that's Brandon Hillman, you name it, and they are trying to. Even Mason Curtis, who's 6'4". They're trying him at nickel. They're really trying to find the best five in that secondary. But Hill, I think is the best defender in the secondary. We saw him get beat a few times last year. It was almost always on the double move, and there's just no way that was not circled, starred, underlined, bolded, italicized, you name it. In terms of how to address that this offseason. But he can stay with wide receiver step for step and man. He's got a knack for the ball. You hear that about just some certain guys. And it sounds like, I spoke to Rod Moore last week. It sounds like he will be back. Now, he's not putting a timetable on it. He wants to be 100% healthy when he does take the field, because he's not trying to put out any tape that does not represent his best. And he said last week to me that he was about 85%. So week 1, week 2, week 3, I would expect him maybe by the end of September. I think you see him on the field, but I just don't think they're going to chance it against New Mexico there, unless there's a major leap between now and then. But he's the captain of the secondary. He's captain of the team and he's the leader of the secondary. So getting him back there is just a tremendous boost.
Yeah, and as you said, there's no reason for him not to wait until he's 100%, because when you have Brandon Hillman, Mason Curtis around, guys like that, they're really good ball players too.
Oh, they are. I mean, Brandon Hillman. I mean, if it wasn't for Jayshon Barham, people would be talking about Brandon Hillman and the type of hitting that he does. And then you got the two Metcalf brothers, TJ and Tevis, one of whom had a pick in the spring game. I think TJ's probably has the leg up right now, and I could see him starting in one of the safety spots. But again, I mean, it feels like the defensive line. Like, is there a star? I don't know. But are there a handful of good players who can create mismatches? Yes.
Well, I think what we can say right now as we approach the long month of August and anticipation is the front seven are going to help out the back end as they sort of mix and match and find out what combination works, best back there. And for the team, from a team perspective, this defense is going to give Chip Lindsey a lot of room and a lot of time, I think, to develop, aren't they?
I'd be surprised if they didn't, especially, I mean, the game that we're really all talking about and alluding to is Oklahoma, right? I mean, New Mexico, Central Michigan, those are not going to be any problem, of course. But on the road, at night, in Norman, very well could be college game day. Michigan is going to have to be at its best. And you're right. I think that defense is going to have to keep Oklahoma in that 17 range, really, if they want a chance. It's just going to be very hard, I think, for the offense to gel in 2 weeks and excel in such a tough environment. And I mean, and no shade to Bryce Underwood, but he got a couple of delay of game penalties in the spring game at home with 30,000 people. I mean, when 80,000 people are right on top of you in the SEC, that is an entirely different ball game. Now, he's ready for it in a lot of ways, but something like that, there's just no way to simulate until you're in it. So the defense is going to have to carry the load in that game. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Well, so much to talk about right now. We've covered a lot of ground today. So final question before we let you get away, Tony. As we've been mentioning, fans are excited to get practice underway, but there's still a cloud lingering over the program, and that's the verdict from the NCAA on sign gate, or whatever you want to call it. We don't know, but from all indications and rumors, we might get the decision in August. So for better or worse, that timing, an announcement in August, is better than sometime later in the season, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I've been told as well. And I know everybody in and around the program is just ready to get on with it. And that's why I've actually told some people who've asked, let's say Sharon Moore's suspension does get bumped from the 2 games that they've self-imposed up to 4 games or something. I know a lot of people I've heard are saying, like, oh, they can appeal. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan didn't appeal. It's not that they don't want to go to bat for Sharon Moore, but they want this out of the news cycle as soon as possible. It has been that, like you said, that dark cloud that's hung over everything for almost 2 full years now. And so it might be the bullet they have to bite and then just move on. And But the tough part about that is this is not the Jim Harbaugh, quote unquote, suspension that was served at the beginning of 2023 or the end of 2023, where he was able to coach all week, be in Schembechler Hall, implement the game plan. Really walk everybody through his vision for how the game would go. And then on Saturday, he instead would watch with his family or with some friends or on a boat or what have you. This is all the way away from the program, so no contact, and that's tough, especially in a year 2 after a year 1 certainly ended with a bang. But they told us in Las Vegas 8-5 is not the standard, even if we finished the way we did, and so they really want to get this turned around. So there's a lot to be seen about what happens and the fallout from it, but I do think that we're going to get some answers sometime in the next month or so.
Yeah, I think everyone, the athletic department, the fans, the university, everyone wants to put the lid on this. So hopefully in the next few weeks that happens. Joining us today on our first preview of the season. And I know every year we get into this, what I call speculation mode, where August really gets to be a long month because we really don't know anything until this team tees it up. But joining us today to discuss all of that has been Tony Garcia, who does such a great job covering Michigan football and basketball for the Detroit Free Press. So, Tony, thanks for being so generous with your time today, and I look forward to getting you back on the show once we kick things off.
Mike, anytime. Appreciate you having me on.
On Quick Hits today, when practice starts this week, we'll get a look at the official depth chart for the team. We might even get some injury updates on Hogan Hansen and Rod Moore. If there are any other players entering camp dinged up, we haven't heard that yet. Once again, we're back on our weekly schedule as we prepare for another season of Michigan football. Hopefully we'll have the NCAA verdict on the Sign Gate investigation, whatever you want to call it, before we get to kickoff. I know everyone in the program, and of course the fans, would like that wrapped up now and done with. We'll just have to wait and see how that decision impacts not only this season, but future seasons of Michigan football. That does it for now. Thanks again to beat writer Tony Garcia from the Detroit Free Press for being our guest. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!